Okay, we've been doing this. I've been doing this surgery for a long time now, and when I started 13 years ago in 1997, everyone who had a gastric bypass had an additional surgery to cut out their gallbladder as well. And when I started, and I said I was doing it laparoscopically, I got a lot of criticism where the surgeon said you have to cut somebody open so you can see in there. You shouldn't use email. You have a website. One of the other criticisms was, Dr. Rutledge, you're a bad doctor because you're not operating and taking out the gallbladder. Now it turns out that the gallbladder is part of your digestive system. So I'd like to give you a little bit of background, tell you about your gallbladder and your biliary system and your digestive system. I'd like to summarize and tell you that when anybody loses weight for any reason, Nutrisystems, Weight Watchers, or surgery, there is an increased risk of stone formation in the bile, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll come back to the Actigall, which is also called ursodeoxycholic acid, and ursa comes from Ursa the bear. And we'll talk about bears and hibernating in the winter and why we take Actigall. But let's start at the beginning and say your digestive system is a miraculous system, and it has a purpose in life. Our bones have a purpose. The skeletal system holds us upright, lets us move around. Your eyes, the visual system, lets us see. And the digestive system lets us digest foods. And we were just talking a few minutes ago about the various kinds of foods that we can eat. So for example, you could eat water and salt. And both of those are interesting foods because they're immediately absorbable without any digestion. That is, they cross right into the body. You don't have to work on them to get them in. On the other hand, a piece of pizza, different. You can't immediately absorb a piece of pizza. So your body, the gut, has this miraculous system to begin to break down and digest that pizza. One of the components, as you know, of food is fat. The other components are proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. But I want to focus on fats for a second, because you and I are water, and oil and water, fat and water don't mix. So when you put fat into the gut, it's hard to absorb that fat, even though it's full of good calories that your body can use. So your body has a system to help you digest fat, and I'd like to explain that system by reminding you of the Dawn dishwashing liquid commercial. You may remember that commercial. It shows a sink. There's a greasy plate of spaghetti that goes into the water, and you see the bubbles of oil and fat and grease that appear on the top of the water. And then from the right-hand side of the screen comes a bottle of Dawn dishwashing liquid, aqua blue, and a squirt, and the detergent hits the water, and the fat globules disintegrate and dissolve. Okay? You and I are fitted exactly with that same Dawn dishwashing liquid dispenser. Instead, ours is not plastic, it's made out of our own tissue, and instead of aqua blue, ours is green bile detergent. So that when we eat a big greasy meal, the gallbladder is our squeeze bottle. It squirts in the detergent to mix with that pizza and helps us disintegrate, digest, and absorb fat. Great. Sounds good. And we don't like it so much in my patients because the miracle is working too well. The ability to digest and absorb fat in my patients, although we like that miracle, it's too much of a good thing. It does too well on digesting and absorbing pizza. So when we bypass that upper gut, that ability to digest and absorb fat goes down, and that's why sometimes you can actually see the fat in your bowel movements if you've had a lot of fat, and if your bowel movements are moving through quickly. So after the surgery, we bypass that upper gut. The bile is less able to digest and absorb pizza and other fats, and you lose a bunch of weight. Good. So far, so good. But one of the problems is the character of the bile changes as you lose weight. As you lose weight, the bile becomes more likely to precipitate and form stones. And so, back to the early days, 13 years ago, surgeons were very critical and all said you have to have your gallbladder out at the same time that we do the MGB. Okay? But we don't. Okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. What we found is there's another chemical which can act as a solvent to dissolve the crystals of bile that are forming stones. And that solvent we get from bears, because bears hibernate in the winter. They burn their fat. If they were always getting trouble with their gallbladder, it'd be challenging to get them all gallbladder surgeons in the winter. So they have evolved or been blessed with bile that tends not to form stones. So we feed our patients bile from bears. And that bile dissolves and helps protect against gallbladder problems after surgery. Okay, now let's go back to the surgeons who were critical. They said, take out a gallbladder, Dr. Rutledge, on every one of your MGB patients, which we could do. And in fact, you might ask me, Dr. Rutledge, I don't want to take Actigall forever. I want to have my gallbladder out as long as you're there. Okay? Well, remember, right now, as of today, we've done around 6,000 surgeries. And remember also that the time that those patients have been in the operating room under anesthesia having surgery with me averages 38 minutes. So that length of time that all my patients have been in the operating room asleep with me operating on them is 6,000 times 38 minutes. And with that, some patients have had complications. Okay? Let me tell you that to do a gallbladder surgery takes about how long? 45 minutes to do a gallbladder surgery? And Dr. Rutledge does the gastric bypass in 38? Anyways, so 45 minutes to do a gallbladder surgery, and if you did 6,000 of them, that would mean 6,000 additional, maybe 3,000 additional hours of surgery time for those patients. And if you put people to sleep for another 3,000 hours, you can look at the data from the University of Maryland database. One person or two people out of every 1,000 gallbladders dies. Of those who don't die, a number of people, if you do thousands of gallbladders, get complications. And even if you're very good at it, if you do complications, if you do gallbladder surgery every day, some people, even with the best surgeons and the best intent, some people get complications from gallbladder surgery. So if we go back and if I did 6,000 additional gallbladder surgeries, not quite 6,000 additional hours of sleep, 6,000 additional hours, 6,000 additional surgeries, 6,000 additional risks of complications, plus take somebody's gallbladder out when they're 300 pounds and have diabetes and high blood pressure and sleep apnea and gout and other complications, or 6 months later, if they do, God forbid, have a problem, and take it out when they're 100 pounds less. So we do not do it, and most surgeons now have changed to follow what I've been doing for the 13 years, and that is they do lap bands and sleeves and now Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. Almost all surgeons choose not to take out the gallbladder. But we do want you to take that Actigall until your body's stabilized at the new lower weight for you. So